So Keir Starmer is in Washington, D.C. ahead of his first meeting with U.S. President Trump in the White House later.
87,000 people flooding the streets in under 19 minutes. 6 knife attacks. 3 sexual assaults. 2 attempted bombings outside transport hubs. And more than 2,400 illegal arrivals in just 5 days. The highest surge ever recorded under Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Emergency rooms overwhelmed. Police units collapsing. London's command center pushed into severe structural failure alert for the first time in modern history. And as Britain drowned in chaos, one voice echoed across the Atlantic. Not gentle, not polite, but prophetic. I told you this would happen. Donald J. Trump. Trump didn't gloat. He warned. He said a nation without a border is a nation without a future. And this week, Britain proved him right. Before we uncover how the UK spiraled into near collapse in just 7 days, hit like and subscribe now if you're tired of being lied to, tired of watching Britain fall, and ready to stand with those who still speak the truth. Because what you're about to see will shake you.
It started yesterday, quietly, the way disasters always do. Dover logged 600 illegal arrivals before noon, then 900 more. By sunset, the number had doubled again. Border Force officers described the coastline as a continuous conveyor belt of boats. Local councils begged for help. The Home Office couldn't respond. Hotels were already at maximum capacity. Schools were full. GP clinics turned patients away. By midnight, one internal report summed it up in 3 words: "We have lost control." By next evening, the streets answered back. An estimated 87,000 people surged toward Westminster in under 19 minutes. A movement so fast, Scotland Yard initially assumed it was a system glitch. It wasn't a glitch. It was a nation snapping. Crowds stormed Paddington, Kensington, Croydon, targeting the very hotels Starmer's government had filled with new arrivals. Flares lit the sky, bins overturned, police lines buckled instantly. Officers radioed HQ, "We cannot hold the perimeter." Then came the darkest night yet. 6 knife attacks across London, 3 in school zones, 2 at train stations, 1 outside a supermarket where families were buying dinner. Police arrested suspects in 4 incidents. All 4 had arrived illegally within the past 18 months. Reporters tried to ask Downing Street for a response. They were told, "No comment at this time." The next day, fear turned into something colder. 2 homemade explosive devices were found outside separate London transport hubs, both disarmed just minutes before detonation. Investigators later confirmed the chilling pattern. Both devices built using online guides circulating in encrypted migrant channels. Still, no national address from Starmer, no emergency statement, no leadership, when every fault line snapped. GP waitlists shut down, ambulances rerouted, 3 boroughs declared local operational failure. London's command center activated severe structural failure, something normally reserved for natural disasters. And still, no leadership, no direction, just numbers spiraling and a prime minister missing from his own crisis. While Britain staggered through its worst week in a generation, the United States moved in the opposite direction. Across the Atlantic, President Donald J. Trump, now deep into his renewed border offensive, froze thousands of asylum pathways, expanded vetting protocols, and ordered military support along key entry corridors. Not symbolic moves, decisive ones. Meanwhile, in the UK, Starmer's administration insisted the surge was manageable, even as Border Force officers reported a 41% collapse in operational capacity. 2 leaders, 2 doctrines, 2 futures diverging in real time. Trump had warned Europe for years, if you don't defend your border, you won't have a country. Most laughed, some mocked, but this week, Britain stopped laughing. As illegal arrivals surged past 2,400 in 5 days, the Home Office privately admitted it had no more hotel space, no more temporary housing, and no more frontline staff to process the inflow. In the US, by contrast, Trump's policies meant arrivals dropped sharply, the clearest data-driven contrast in the Western world. It wasn't ideology, it was results. Every crisis has an accelerant. In Britain, it was silence. Starmer refused a national address even as London broke under knife attacks and attempted bombings. The vacuum created something worse than fear: speculation. Was the government overwhelmed? Was it understaffed? Or simply unwilling to face the truth? Inside Parliament, MPs whispered that the Prime Minister looked exhausted, confused, and cornered, avoiding briefings and delaying responses until situations spiraled beyond repair. Leadership didn't just fail, it evaporated. Pollsters reported a seismic shift. 71% of Britons believe the government has lost control of national security. 64% fear crime linked to illegal migration. 58% support immediate border shutdown. Trust in Starmer fell below 30% for the first time since his election. Meanwhile, in the US, Trump's approval among voters who prioritize border policy surged, creating a contrast so sharp British analysts privately called it humiliating. One nation tightening, the other unraveling. By Thursday, British broadcasters aired footage of U.S. border units reinforcing checkpoints, drones patrolling, and asylum pathways paused pending deep vetting, across living rooms in London, Manchester, Birmingham. People asked the same question: why don't we do that? The answer came quietly from a Whitehall insider: we can't. The system is already broken. And for the first time, the United Kingdom confronted a reality it never wanted to admit. It wasn't just behind America, it was collapsing in full view of it. By Friday afternoon, Whitehall resembled a command bunker hit by shockwaves. Officials rushing between offices, phones buzzing non-stop, analysts shouting conflicting reports, and security staff sealing corridors that had never been sealed before. Inside the Cabinet Office, screens displayed 3 words that chilled every advisor in the room: national capacity exceeded. Not a warning, a confirmation. 6 knife attacks, 3 sexual assaults, and 2 attempted bombings in 1 week had pushed Britain's emergency network past its limit. And the immigration surge had become the accelerant that ignited everything else. The system wasn't bending, it was splintering. An internal briefing leaked to senior ministers showed the scale of the damage. Police response times up 62%. 911 equivalent calls. 38,000 unanswered. Ambulance delays up 41%. 15 boroughs reporting critical service degradation. £312 million in economic disruption in just 5 days. And the worst line of all, illegal immigration surge directly linked to 41% of emergency overload. The press would never hear that sentence, but inside Whitehall, it hung in the air like a confession no one dared speak aloud. By evening, a pattern became undeniable. Every time Starmer was scheduled to address the crisis, the briefing was delayed, then delayed again, until the moment passed and silence took its place. It wasn't defiance, it wasn't strategy, it was paralysis. Civil servants reported he was exhausted, overwhelmed, and avoiding confrontation. One advisor described him staring at the situation board for nearly 20 minutes without speaking. A prime minister watching numbers rise while options shrink. Leadership didn't fail by action, it failed by absence. While officials argued over phrasing, Britain burned. Parents afraid to send kids to school after knife attacks. Women avoiding night buses after 3 sexual assaults. Commuters fleeing transport hubs hours after the attempted bombings. Hospitals triggering overflow protocols normally reserved for terror days. Police leaving non-emergency zones completely unpatrolled ordinary British families. The people politicians claimed to defend felt the collapse first. And for many, the collapse felt frighteningly familiar. A country absorbing more than its systems could carry. By late Friday night, Whitehall fractured inward. Departments stopped cooperating. The Home Office blamed the Treasury for underfunding. The Treasury blamed the Ministry of Justice for delays. The MOJ blamed Border Force for losing track of thousands of arrivals. And in the center of the chaos stood a prime minister unable to pull any of them back into alignment. One minister leaked a line that summed up the entire week. "This isn't government anymore, it's triage." The crisis wasn't just national. It was institutional. Britain wasn't failing on the streets. It was failing at the very desk where the solutions were supposed to be written. By Saturday morning, just 6 days into the crisis, Britain stood at the edge of a weekend that felt more like a warning than a pause. Police reinforcements stretched thin. Local councils openly admitted collapse. Emergency services begged for breathing room. And Whitehall quietly braced for the possibility that Sunday could bring an even larger surge of unrest. For the first time in years, Britain didn't look like a nation struggling. It looked like a nation slipping, and everyone in Whitehall felt it. And so, as this week comes to a close, Britain finds itself staring into a mirror it can no longer avoid. The chaos didn't erupt from nowhere. The panic didn't materialize by accident. The collapse wasn't a single failure. It was the sum of 1,000 ignored warnings. This wasn't just about immigration or policing or one prime minister struggling to hold the line. It was about a nation stretched beyond its limits, carrying more pressure than any system could withstand. For years, voters were told everything was manageable, that the borders were secure, that crime was isolated, that migration was sustainable, that public services could handle the load. But this week proved something far more uncomfortable. Britain didn't lose control overnight. Britain lost control slowly, silently, and publicly. The most devastating revelation wasn't the violence, or the police overload, or even the failed bomb plots. It was the realization that a modern Western government, with every tool of authority at its disposal, spent this week reacting, not leading. Reality moved faster than Whitehall, and Whitehall blinked. For many, that will be the hardest truth to swallow. Not that Britain is unsafe, but that the people trusted to keep it safe no longer seem capable of doing so. Tonight, as the country braces for another uncertain weekend, one question looms over everything. If this is what 1 week looks like, what will the next month bring? Because the numbers aren't slowing, the pressure isn't easing. And the system, from councils to courts to emergency rooms, is cracking in plain sight. Britain is not at collapse, but Britain is at risk, and risk, once ignored, becomes reality. Before we end tonight's report, I want to hear from you, the people who actually live with the consequences of these decisions. Do you think the government still has control, or has public confidence already collapsed beyond repair? Your comment isn't just feedback. It becomes part of the record of this moment, a moment Britain may look back on as the week everything cracked open. If you believe the truth needs to be heard, hit like and subscribe in one strike. Let's push this report past the silence.